It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call shots.
Now, is it how you were always going to open this?
No, I just thought of doing that just now.
All right.
Pokémon Detective Pikachu, Todd. The movie, so this is going to be a weird episode of Shots, folks, because...
I did not see it.
Yeah, I think this is actually the first time we've done this, where I have seen the film, Todd has not seen it, and Todd doesn't really have an interest in seeing it. So it's one of those things where it's like, I still want to get an episode of Shots together. And I talked to Todd, I was like, do you think this is something, should I just review the movie on the main show? Should I do like a solo episode of Shots? What do you want to do? And Todd was like, no, let's still have me on there. And, you know, I think maybe, you know, if there's something you're curious about, you could ask me questions about it. If you don't know, if you've never listened to an episode of Shots before, this is our movie and TV kind of review podcast, where we go see movies, talk about them. Typically, we'll spend a few minutes talking about the movie and reviewing it in a sort of like non-spoilery context, and then we give a clear spoiler warning and then talk about spoilers. That's actually a good question. Do you want me to discuss spoilers? Do you care if I spoil the movie for you?
I honestly don't give a shit.
Okay, that's fine. So then we'll do this like a typical episode of Shots. I will talk about the movie in a non-spoilery way, and then I'll let you know when I get into spoilers. So there's been a lot of hype, right? Ever since we saw that first trailer for Detective Pikachu, I remember the internet going ablaze when that first trailer was released, both in good ways or bad ways. For me, it took me a little while to warm up to the sort of idea of a live-action Pokemon movie. But once I warmed up to the idea and I got used to the designs, I actually started to get really excited. And let me tell you, Todd, Detective Pikachu lives up to the hype.
No, it doesn't.
It does. It is probably the first great video game movie. There have been video game movies that are like fine, that are like good. Like I'm thinking of like the Assassin's Creed movie, that was good. You know, Warcraft, that was good.
Did we think the Assassin's Creed movie was good?
It was fine. It was watchable. It was totally fine.
Watchable. All right.
It was totally fine. Like it had good things about it, right? I haven't seen the new Tomb Raider. I heard again that was fine. This one, Detective Pikachu, is the first one that is actually legitimately a great movie. And it has problems, and unfortunately I can't really talk about the problems without spoiling the movie. Because it's not even really problems, plural. I have one major problem with the movie that is a massive spoiler, kind of the real big spoiler of the movie. And I'll have to talk about it in the spoiler context. But I'll just say it is a narrative issue. It's kind of a writery thing that I take issue with. And it deals with the ending of the movie. So I can't really talk about it, unfortunately, in this non-spoiler section. But other than that, I really think that this is, like, to me, as good of a live-action Pokemon movie as is possible. I can't really imagine there being a better live-action Pokemon movie than this. Like, it's everything you want in a Pokemon movie. I was really afraid going into this that, like, fuck, am I not going to get to see a Pokemon battle? Am I not going to get to see somebody catch a Pokemon? Like,
but you see all of it?
Yes, you do.
Well, that's good shit.
There are Pokemon battles in the film. There's actually a really good moment where the movie, one thing the movie does really brilliantly is it sets up the world and you just instantly buy it. Like, it gets you straight into it. Like, in the early goings on in the movie, you see how, like, catching Pokemon works. You see a very funny scene with Cubone. You see, you kind of see, like, a sequence of somebody trying to catch a Pokemon. You see, like, Pokemon battles and how it works, even in, like, a stadium context. And it's cool. Like, it's really, it really makes you feel like, it made me feel like a kid again. Like, I'm looking at this, I'm like 9-10 years old again, and it's literally playing, like, it's treating it like in the scene that I'm talking about, you're seeing this stadium battle, and you see when you're looking at the size of a massive Gyarados, in live action, you're just like, fuck. And like, and it's playing in the it's treating it like it's like a news report, and the kind of theme, it's playing it like it's a news broadcast, but the theme is the Pokemon theme, where it's like dun 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 in the background. It's so good. It's so fucking good. But then so they give the fans the stuff they want to see, and they sprinkle stuff like that in what is ultimately just a really solid detective story. Like, this is the phrase I keep going back to. The first thing I thought of, I was like, this is Pokemon meets Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like, it has that kind of tone.
Okay.
It has that kind of tone because like it's live action, it's human characters with like animated characters, but they look, none of the Pokemon look out of place. It all looks good. There's not really any designs that I thought didn't work. Now that I'm used to Mr. Mime's horribleness, I'm even kind of like, Mr. Mime, I gotta say, his scenes in the movie are fucking hilarious. So funny. I was really worried that they were gonna show too much, like that the trailers showed all the best jokes, but no, they really didn't. The movie's hilarious. We actually had like several laugh out loud moments in the movie, and it has a really solid story. If you played the Detective Pikachu game like I have, it follows the game's plot pretty closely, but I'll say this: there are still surprises. There are still ways in which they deviated from the game. In some major ways. So you, even if you played the game, you'll still find something to be surprised about. And it kind of tells like a little bit of a heartfelt story. Like it's about like the connection between humans and Pokemon. It's about the connection between like the main character Tim and his dad. Like it's interesting. Like it actually, most of the time in movies like this, you're like, the human characters suck. But like, the human characters don't really suck in this. Like, the human characters are actually good parts of this. As good as the Pokemon. And I liked that. I really actually enjoyed the performance. I think his name is Justice Smith, the main guy who plays Tim. Mm-hmm. I really liked him. I really enjoyed his performance in this movie. He's very, like, he's funny. Has this kind of, like, dry wit. He's got a good like sense of humor to him. He can be vulnerable, and I liked him a lot. The other kind of like lead opposite him, this girl Lucy, I don't know the actress's name. She's kind of like just fine, Like they have good chemistry and stuff like that, but she's not great. Oh my god! So she has a companion Psyduck, and there's a running gag with the Psyduck that is fucking hilarious. It is so funny. Like, the running gag with Psyduck, because, with Psyduck, if he gets too stressed out, his head explodes and it releases, like, a Psy blast,
Yeah.
So there's this whole running gag of, like, oh, don't stress Psyduck out. there's this whole, like, you'll see him, he's just like, Psyduck, and they're trying to do anything to calm him down. Like, they're like, driving in the car, playing this, like, relaxing music and shit.
That's good. That's pretty solid.
And there's this moment where Psyduck like raises his foot and wants Pikachu to like massage his foot just to relax his ass so he doesn't stress out.
At that point, he's just playing games.
Yeah, he was just being a little shit, at that point. And there's a good I won't spoil it, but in relation to that, there's a little Seinfeld reference that got me. I was like, I liked that. Ryan Reynolds as Detective Pikachu, I was sort of like apprehensive about it at first. I was like, this is weird casting, but he's great. He's so good. Like he actually, I'll say this, you don't really get this from the trailers, but he actually kind of does a like more noir detective kind of thing than it seems like he does in the trailers. Like in the trailers, it seems like he's just basically Deadpool, right? But in the actual movie, he's kind of like he's actually kind of like a kind of kind of 20s detective vibe a little bit, He actually like drops the word dame and shit like that. so it's like this kind of cute, light noir story, detective story in the world of Pokemon. I don't hate it. I'll say this, the villain is really predictable. You see it coming a mile away. There's a lot going on with that. But I think if you're a Pokemon fan, this honestly is like one of those things. If you grew up with Pokemon like I did, it's one of those things, man. Like, I'm such a huge Pokemon fan. It was just so cool to see how fully realized this world is, to see these Pokemon in live action. Like, you couldn't ask for a better live action Pokemon movie.
Who do we all get to see Pokemon-wise?
Oh, God. There's a lot. I'll say this. If I had a kind of a minor complaint, there's got to be between 30 and 40 different Pokemon in the movie. There's a lot. They span multiple generations, too. It's not all just Gen 1.
No, that's good.
We see a lot. I mean, you see, like, Pancham and Pangoro for kind of, like, the kind of newer generations. Of course, there's mostly Gen 1 creatures, but, like, Greninjas are in there, of course. There's a moment with Torterras. You know, some of the stuff that we've seen in the trailers. I mean, there's some really cool moments. You know, we see a Snorlax at one point. There's some really cool shit, but it does kind of feel like they kind of like picked and choose like between 30 and 40 Pokemon, and then kind of like got as much mileage out of those Pokemon models as they could, you know? Where it's like, oh, like we have a Charmander model up and running. Let's put like fucking like 20 Charmanders in this movie. Like at a certain point, I got a little bit sick of seeing some of the Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish that they had just, like, rather than doubling down on the Pokemon they got, I kind of would have liked more variety. But it's cool, you know. You don't feel, like, fatigued. Like, you don't look at these Pokemon and say, like, oh, like, I'm sick of seeing Pokemon on screen. There's a lot of them. And they all live in harmony with the humans. I was really impressed with it overall in terms of, like, if you're going to make a live-action Pokemon, I don't think you can do a whole hell of a lot better than this. Like, I think this is pretty much the perfect entryway into a live-action Pokemon. It's like I said, it's got a good detective story, a solid detective story. It's got emotional beats. It's funny. The movie's short. It's like an hour and 40 minutes, I think. So it just goes by so quick, you know. Like, it's so like breezy and just a fun, light movie. If you're a Pokemon fan, you really ought to see it. It's really good. But I need to talk about spoilers. So, spoiler alert. Go see the movie. Come back, listen to this if you want to, or if you don't care or whatever. But I am getting into spoilers now. So, this is my big problem with the movie. So,
you just want to get that out of the way, huh?
Yeah, because here's the whole premise of the movie, right? And this is the premise of the game too. So, they discover there's this drug that has been released into Rhyme City called R, okay? And this drug is causing Pokemon to go, like, insane, like, completely feral, right?
Okay.
So, like, there's a moment where Tim goes to his... So, you know, the whole setup is his father dies. He goes to his father's apartment in Rhyme City to kind of gather his things and kind of come to terms with his father's passing. He and his father haven't had a good relationship, blah, blah, blah. He goes and he finds a vial of R, because his dad was investigating the production of R, and accidentally opens it, and there's some Apom outside the window who just go nut shit. And they turn feral and vicious, and they like chase Tim and Pikachu down this rooftop and shit like that. And so anyway, you come to learn that R is being produced by Mewtwo's DNA. They have acquired a Mewtwo, and they actually name drop. Like they actually say, like, we acquired this in the Kanto region type shit, you know?
Ooh.
So, and they actually, you see in the newspaper that, you know, like the more ancient fossils of the ancient Pokemon Mew have been uncovered, you know? So they're teasing Mew and shit like that, and they get Mewtwo from the Kanto region, and they're experimenting on Mewtwo. They're producing this drug called R, and the big twist is that there's this character played by Bill Nighy, like, weirdly. I was like, wow, Bill Nighy, you're actually in this. Like, this is kind of a cool surprise. Like, I love Bill Nighy and everything he's in, so it's kind of cool to see him in this movie. He plays like the villain of the movie, basically. And he's wheelchair bound. And he sort of created Rhyme City because he feels like Pokemon are sort of better than people, because people have no way to, like, evolve beyond themselves. Like, people have no way to physically better themselves, but Pokemon do. So he created Rhyme City as a way for people and Pokemon to live in harmony and blah, blah, blah. his ultimate goal is to he has Mewtwo in captivity. He wants to make a neural link with Mewtwo to transfer his consciousness, do some get out shit, and basically put his mind in Mewtwo's body. Okay. So, and he wants to make all of the citizens of Rhyme City basically take their souls and put them into Pokemon bodies. Okay.
But why though?
Because he feels like Pokemon are better than humans, and the only humanity's evil, and the only way we can get rid of humanity is to put them all inside of Pokemon, right? That's the whole thing. So
what?
I didn't actually take too much issue with that, but
that sounds like horse.
It's not really. I mean, in the context of the movie, it's like one of those things where They do this introductory kind of thing.
I mean, what you just told me, because humans are evil. They're going to put human minds into Pokemon.
Yes. Well,
that's still shitty humans, just in Pokemon.
I'll explain a little bit better. What I mean is, it's not even like humans are evil. It's like humans are never have, like, Pokemon have the ability to evolve into a better version of themselves. Humans don't. A human is finite. A Pokemon is not, right? It's like a Pokemon has the ability to continue living and continue evolving.
Now you explain that better, but it's still horseshit. Continue.
He's this old man in a wheelchair, so he wants to continue living on as this all-powerful Mewtwo, right? So his whole thing is the way we progress as a race is to put our souls into Pokemon bodies.
All right.
That's what he thinks.
You explain that better. Continue.
Yeah, so it makes a little bit more sense.
Dude, when you first explained it, I was like, what?
I'm not. Yeah, I don't mean to say like he doesn't like humanity or whatever. But that's. I don't mean to say like he thinks that like emotionally Pokemon are better or anything like that. He means like physically, when like putting us into a Pokemon body is how we're gonna move on as a race, is what he thinks. Yeah. So it's like some fucking like it's some like Holocaust shit almost. And anyway, so the way he discovered to do this is the Pokemon has to be either willing to make the transfer to like take on a human soul, basically, or the Pokemon has to be in a frenzied state, which is why he created R.
They need to be sent into the sunken place.
Yeah, basically. It's very like Get Out in that way. They have to be either willing to do it or they have to be, frenzied, essentially. So the big twist in the movie is that like Harry's not dead, blah blah blah. Your dad's still alive, blah blah blah. Turns out Harry, Tim's dad, kind of like was helping Mewtwo escape type shit. The Greninjas are sent out, hopped up on R. The Greninjas are set out to kill Harry because Harry's become a problem at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Harry's with his Pikachu. They get into a car accident, and then Mewtwo saves Harry's life by putting Harry's soul inside of Pikachu's body. So Detective Pikachu is Tim's dad, basically. He just has no recollection of this. So by the end of the movie, when they actually, because of course there's this big climax where the bad guy successfully does the neural link. He's controlling Mewtwo. He's fucking everybody up. All these people have been transferred into Pokemon bodies and shit like that. And it's this big climax, right? The way he sets it up, so they do a Pokemon parade with the big balloons and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And the balloons are all filled with R. So the balloons start dispersing R all over the city, and it causes the Pokemon to go frenzied, and then Mewtwo just en masse is just like doing transfers in big, bulks, basically. Big action climax. And then at the end of it, Mewtwo reveals all this shit about, oh, this is actually your dad kind of shit. And then, like, at the end of the movie, just they separate Pikachu and Harry, and it's just Ryan Reynolds, like, as a person, as Tim's dad. And, like, the Pikachu is just a normal Pikachu again, And it's weird because, like, the movie ends with, like, it's kind of like a sweet moment. He reconnects with his dad and shit like that. But, like, I'm like, so does he remember being a Pikachu? Does he remember any of this? Does he, does the normal Pikachu remember any of this? And then, like, a sequel has already been greenlit. Where do they go from here? You know? Because, like, now your main character, Detective Pikachu, is just a normal Pikachu now. You know what I mean? So I'm just a little bit, like, confused as to where they're going to go from here, ending the movie.
Back into the Pikachu. Electric Boogaloo.
We have to go back. I sort of feel like the route they're going to go is probably, like, maybe there's some, like, residual shit, you know? Where, like, the Pikachu still has his own personality and shit. But anyway, that's the reason he's able to understand the Pikachu. That's the reason he has, like, a bond with it, is because it's actually his dad, right? So, and there's some really good moments in the movie. Oh, my God, one of the best moments. So you're getting this story, this backstory, because Pikachu has amnesia, right? So you're getting little bits and pieces of this story told through either flashbacks or, like, psychic connections that Mewtwo is making type shit. And you see a clip of Pikachu is the one that actually sets Mewtwo free, but this is before you know the twist, so it almost makes it look like Pikachu's evil and, like, helped Mewtwo get out and kill Harry's dad, right? So there's this whole moment where Pikachu, like, leaves Tim, and he's like, "Oh, I could betray you. I betrayed you before, you know, in the past. I betrayed your father, blah blah blah." And Pikachu kind of runs off and kind of does his own thing. And he's like walking on this bridge, kind of like crying and singing the Pokemon theme to himself. And it's funny because it makes you for the first time think about the Pokemon theme's lyrics from the perspective of a Pokemon. like it's kind of like it's supposed to, like, from the perspective of a Pokemon, it's kind of like a Pokemon power kind of song, you know, like an uplifting kind of song. So he's sitting there, like, pumping his fist in the air, like, sobbing. He's like, "You teach me and I'll teach you." It's good shit. Oh my God. You probably saw in the trailer, there's a big set piece with, like, the earth, like, moving and, like, I was like, what the hell is going on with this? That's actually an interesting part where they break into one of the labs or whatever, and they see that there's an experiment going on with Torterras. So there's, like, 4 or 5 enormous Torterras that they find themselves on the backs of. It's really cool. It's a really cool set piece. I get just my big problem is that whole thing at the end with the dad. Like, I don't know where they're gonna go from here. I was talking to, you know, my wife after the movie, like, if they're gonna do a sequel, like, they're gonna do, like, a Team Rocket kind of thing. Like, I was actually kind of, like, just spitballing. I was like, maybe I could see, you know, say they bring in the character of Giovanni, right, the leader of Team Rocket, in the sequel. Maybe he is, like, inspired by the events of this movie, and, you know, there's no reason for the drug to be called R. So maybe he's inspired by the events, and so he uses the R logo, Team Rocket, you know? That's something I was kind of spitballing. But I've got no idea where they're going to go from this. Like, the movie has such a definitive ending. Like,
that's weird that it has a sequel already greenlit. Yeah,
it's weird that there's going to be a sequel. Like, I'm at this crossroads where it's like, I want to see more because I really enjoyed the movie overall. I want to see more of this world. But it's like, what are you going to do? I mean, the only thing I can think of is, like, are you going to follow different characters? Because I grew to like these characters.
Well, here's the thing. Is it going to be... Is it like straight up greenlit as a Detective Pikachu sequel, or are they just going to do another live-action Pokemon movie?
It seems like it's, like, greenlit as a Detective Pikachu sequel, from what I've read. So, I don't know, man. It's odd. It's odd. The whole thing is odd. Yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of the spoilers. It's a light movie. It's a light detective movie. It's just kind of a quick, fun thing. It's not like some hugely, it's not some deep plot or anything like that. But do you want me to? Do you have any questions that you would like me to answer before we wrap it up? Anything you're curious about with this movie? Now that we're in the no holds barred section.
I need what. Truthfully, like, what was the coolest Pokemon for you to see in live action?
That's a good question. I'll say this. So my favorite Pokemon, Gengar, is in the movie, and it's probably like the one design that I don't like in the whole movie.
Why? What bothers you about it?
He's the. I don't really know how they could have done it better, but it's just weird. I mean, it's cool that they made him.
He's supposed to be a big boy.
He is big. No, he is big for sure. And so they the whole thing with Rhyme City is like, oh, Pokemon battles are illegal. Like we're supposed to live in harmony type shit. But they still have like underground Pokemon battles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a battle going on between a Gengar and a Blastoise. And he just looks like there's something about like the big teeth that they gave him and stuff like that, and like the way they handle his eyes. I mean, he looks more ghostly for sure. Like he looks like he's made out of like smoke, basically. But there's just, I don't know, there's just something about, I didn't like despise it, but it's probably the one design where I was like, I don't really like that too much. I actually enjoyed the way they handled Charizard in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I was going to like him as much. Like, when I first saw it in the trailer, I was like, this looks a little bit weird. But in live action, he looks pretty cool. I mentioned Gyarados earlier. Gyarados is just awesome to, like, see. Like, he's just so big, and, like, it was pretty cool to see Gyarados in live action. The thing that's cool is, like, they're pretty faithful with all these designs, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, none of these designs look too out of place. Like, it just looks like how Pokemon would look in the real world.
That's awesome.
You get shots of, like... There's shots of, like, Squirtles, like, helping out firefighters and stuff like that. You know?
I like that. Again, this is one of those movies that I knew I wasn't going to see in theaters, but it was going to be one of those things that I'd see, like, when it comes out on, like, Blu-ray or streaming.
It's going to be one of those movies that, like, when it comes out on Blu-ray, I'm just going to watch it, like, over and over again. Because, it's so fun. Like, that's
the thing. It was just, I knew I wasn't going to go to pay, like, theater prices.
Oh, dude. For me to go and watch that, like, again, I felt like a kid watching it. Like, it was just cool to be immersed in this world of Pokemon. I think it's worth the ticket price, personally. I loved it. Like, we're talking about seeing it again, fucking, when we go to Galveston in a few days. We're talking about seeing it again, so it's really good. I'll say this, since we're in the spoiler section, there's no post-credits. You know, I know we're all spoiled from the Marvel movies, but there's no post-credits.
Is it spoiled? Because Lord knows I actually hate Stang.
Well, it's
I
like...
say spoiled.
Well, what I mean by that is we've gotten to this place now, I think, with movies where it's like, it could be any fucking movie, and you like, want to stay for the credits all of a sudden.
The wording's wrong. I don't want to stay. I feel like I have to.
Right. But it's like, it wasn't actually until like 10 years ago that was even a thing. You know, and now here we are expecting there to be like post-credit scenes all of a sudden.
No, I look it up every time now.
That's what I ended up doing.
Again, I'm not a fan of staying for the credits. Like, here's the thing: if it's up to me, like when I go to the theaters with my family, I'd watch it online. I don't give a fuck.
Oh, come on! You're gonna pirate it? Don't be like that.
No, I'm talking about like watching like the end credit scenes.
Oh. See, I like to see it on the big screen. But so don't worry about that with Detective Pikachu. There's no post credits for Detective Pikachu. But again, worth seeing. You know, I'll say this: there was a really small twist with that involves a Ditto that it took me off guard. Anastasia saw it coming, but for some reason, like, I just didn't like. There's so many other things going on. I was like trying to pay attention for like Easter eggs, and it took me off guard in the moment, you know. Even though, like, in retrospect, there's a lot of like hints as to the fact that there's a Ditto that plays a pretty big part in the movie.
Yeah, I'll watch it when it's on Netflix.
It's good. It's good, dude. It's really good. It has me excited for the potential of future live action Pokemon movies. Like, they figured it out. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that this movie exists and they figured it out makes me very happy. I'm at this place where I'm just like, you have the formula, just keep making movies with this formula in this world, and we're good. I'm curious how much money the movie's gonna make. I feel like the movie's gonna do well. I think the movie's gonna get good word of mouth. It's gonna have a good opening weekend. I think we'll see how it goes. Anyway, unless you had any other questions, I think that's probably gonna do it.
That was really it.
I'll say this. I don't think your boy Blaziken is in the movie.
Sounds about right.
Unless I missed him, I don't think there's Blaziken in the movie. Unfortunately.
Now I don't care at all.
Congratulations. Now I don't give a shit. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys.
You were supposed to sell me on this. Now you failed.
Nah, I'm not trying to sell you. I don't give a fuck. You should have seen it in theaters. It's worth your money, damn it.
Wrong.
Anyway. No. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
See ya.
Hey there, thanks for checking out another fantastic Nerd Bourbon video. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, be sure to go ahead and subscribe, leave us a like, drop us a nice comment, or I guess a mean one if that's your prerogative. But until next time, get dunked on.